Okay, we're back, and today we're going to talk light bulbs. Did that light bulb come on? I don't know. So, what kind of light bulbs are there? Why do they have all these different bottoms? Why do they do all this stuff? So, we might cover some of that, but we're going to kind of just hit those different types of bases and
Because we really can't figure out. We just had a pre-show discussion. We really don't know why we have so many different bases. We'll call it competition.
exactly, exactly. So, before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, dingle on the bell, and of course, you can always leave us a note if you know why there are all these different bases. Then put us a little note down there. Tell us why. All right, I you found this picture, Rich, and I just think it's cool. I think the more we discussed it, it wasn't
Adequate for the conversation.
no, but it's a cool looking picture.
Yeah. So this
So,
came about because I changed the under cabinet lighting in my kitchen from 2700 Kelvin to
uh-huh,
5000 Kelvin, the color.
right.
We've covered color of light before. There's another show. If you look on our YouTube channel, you should find it. But bottom line is the cool white 2700 has a yellow tinge. My backsplash tile is white and stainless. Well, when you turn on that under cabinet lighting, it makes it look yellow and dull.
Right.
So I ripped all that out. I put in a newer style of LED under cabinet light, and it looked great until I turned the light on my microwave under, my hood
Uh-huh.
microwave, and it had this ugly yellow tinge in the center of them. So just dismantled it, take the bulb out, and nowhere on the bulb is it marked for the base. But it was weird. I was confused. It's a screw-in bulb,
Uh-huh.
but it's not an E26 standard medium base.
Right.
It was smaller.
And how about one of
It
these?
wasn't an E, but it wasn't an E12 candelabra either. So I literally had to measure it
What?
at like a 5/8 base. So it turned out it was like an E14, it was actually like a European candelabra. It's bigger than an American candelabra.
The E
So E26 is your old
okay,
Edison light bulb, right? We put
right,
those in every.
right,
27s, I think, are very much the same. But what I
right.
needed was like this E14. See, it's smaller, but yet it's not a lot smaller,
Oh, look at that. There's an E12, your standard candelabra base.
right?
The E14 is
So
the
no, I take that back. I think it was the E. I needed the E17 then because the E17 was like 5/8. The
it's an intermediate.
E26 is your standard.
Yep.
So I literally found, and you're not gonna be able to see this. And you could have downloaded this, but it's such a poor quality. This one,
Back
oh,
up.
I know I'm working on it,
Go
brother.
go down towards your shirt more. There
There I
you go.
go. Anyway, this chart has dimensions on it.
Uh-huh.
Now, unfortunately, it's a very poor quality. So even when you zoom in, but anyway, I was able to find that the 5/8, I was able to find that on here and order the bulb I needed. I've really never had that happen before.
No.
Usually you could go into the owner's manual or it's stamped on the side of the bulb.
Right. So what kind of microwave is it that it has these?
Brighter now.
But is it a
Oh,
Bosch
it's I think
GE?
it's Jeld-Wen or Whirlpool.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just thought it was odd if the bulbs weren't labeled for what they were. Usually it's right on the side, 110 volts, 120 volt, blah blah blah, and
Right.
it'll say the base. It didn't have the base number on it, so
And it wasn't because your glasses weren't good enough that you couldn't read it.
it could have been that too, but I didn't see it. I didn't have my microscope was broke that day. So yeah, the E26 is your sort of standard medium base, and then the E27, I think, like they say, might be the one I needed to be another medium, but still slightly different.
Right.
E14 over there, that's actually a European candelabra. The E12 is our standard candelabra. So these charts are handy because you go on, there's a lot of great sites, right? Amazon, Wayfair, all these, Ferguson.
Yep.
They all sell all these great light fixtures online. They have them shipped right to your house, but none of them come with bulbs. And then it
Right.
says right on there, needs 4 E17 bulbs. You're like, well, what are those?
Yeah. Exactly. One of those.
So you have to know what bulbs you're looking for. A lot of times it'll just say candelabra or medium base.
Right.
If it's just that, you're usually pretty good going to the store. But appliance bulbs are that weirder, it seems E27.
Yeah.
That's
And you know, it depends on if it's a halogen or that, you know, different kind of stuff. And that, I don't know, maybe these have something to do with, you know, temperature ratings too, for how hot the bulb can get, you know.
well, how much power it actually needs. So surface area, you know, how what we do with wire, right? The electricity runs on the outside of the wire. So the same thing's gonna happen with light bulb. Because when you get to the E39, the E40, and EX39,
Yeah.
you're like the old sodium vapor street light bulbs. So they
Right.
don't usually get that in this picture, but
Yeah.
they're like big.
Yes, they're
Yeah,
very
they're
large.
monsters. They're, you know, a couple inches wide. So that's a lot of surface area. So it's a lot of power. Most of those were, you know, large.
Yes. And all those are 220, you know, they not 110 volt, they're 220 volt, 240 volt.
And
So
that might be why you change them up because of different power ratings. You know, something needs, you know, 10 amps. It's a smaller bulb, so they give you a smaller socket. They don't want you putting a giant bulb in a 10 amp, you know, fixture because, well, it's underpowered and creates too much heat resistance.
right. It's
Then
exactly
you
it.
get to the twist and lock bases. The twist and lock bases, the 2 pins, I think that's pretty much it's coming, but I think it's pretty standard in California. So we always call them California bases because I'm in
Oh,
Florida.
oh yeah. We don't run those in the Chicago area here. We don't run into those. We
No, and actually, even down here, we don't see them. I just happen to have read some time ago that all the new fixtures in California are those 2 pin bases.
Yeah, see, and I don't care for those because those twist locks, and then also when we get down to the bipins, the little springs in there that hold and make contact with those pins, they wear out over time. They get soft, and then the bulbs don't work. You got to replace the sockets. It's just it just turns into a mess. It's a lot of work. There's something tried and true about that old twist in socket. You just
Right.
it's there.
But
It
it,
works.
but it's funny. Okay, so let's go to specialty bases just for a quick second, and we're going to shoot all the way to the right on that picture. But the BA15D and the BA15S.
Yeah.
15D double contact, and then the BA15S is your single contact. So you know what we've got there.
Yeah. Well, those are
1150, 1157, the standard bulbs for the old cars for your,
yes.
you know, tail light and then your tail light brake light. That's the 2 contacts, tail light, brake light. The other
Right.
one is your,
And
you
then
know,
these are all the marker lights.
yep. And they just twist lock, right? It's bayonet mount. It's kind of cool. You just,
Yep. They got these little pins on the side here. So
and the double, they were staggered differently. So you couldn't put a double in a single and you couldn't put a single in a double.
right.
So they're very cool. My cars still use those. I don't own anything that doesn't use those. I do. My truck doesn't use those,
Yeah.
but my other cars all use those now.
Right.
So then the bipin bases, those are typically halogen, and I don't know what else. You don't even find a lot of LED with that anymore, but some LED, I guess.
Yeah. This the all of these different size pins, that's where you get into a pain in the butt trying to figure out which one goes where and you got to measure these out to figure out what you've got and you got to match them up. So
Right. Well, that's what's nice with this. So you notice now G4 is 4 millimeter, GU4 is 4 millimeter, GU 5.3 is 5.3. So they're giving you the dimensions in their type.
right. That's exactly it.
So that should help some. Now, when you get to the fluorescent pin bases, so this chart actually shows like the middle one there, the medium bipin,
Yep.
and then the single bipin. Those both look like your standard fluorescent tubes, right?
Correct.
So that medium bipin, that's actually also a G13. That's typically used in tubes like your T8, T12 fluorescent tubes, which we don't really use anymore either because if you
Not as
get an
efficient.
LED fixture, you know, the payback is so fast because they use so much less electricity.
Right.
And then the compact fluorescent plug and the lamp bases, I've run into a couple of those, but I think that's already dead.
Yes. All of this, we did have these for a while.
Very short period of time.
Yeah, it was very short lived. but that was right after that was before the LEDs became really inexpensive and easy to make. And they were trying to get out of the incandescent, and they were making that transition to compact fluorescence. And that's when those sockets were coming out for a while there. But you'll probably run into that if it's early 2000s, if a fixture from that, up to maybe.
Which I'd recommend is buying a new fixture.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly it. So have we explained why?
Well, except all the different bases, but we're not explaining why we have so many different, because, well, honestly, I don't know.
Leave us a comment. Why do they have to do this? I understand light fixture is smaller. You maybe don't want to need as much light coming off of it, the lumens. So you can use a candelabra light bulb in there and then, get softer lighting, and it's not as bright. Like a chandelier, you don't want those big fat bulbs in there. You want something smaller. So that kind of stuff makes sense. And, when you get into the LEDs and the halogen bulbs, you can make those smaller. But even though this is somewhat standardized, I think it could be even more standardized. And
I think so too, because it just gets really difficult. And you see this, it's like an antique picture in a sense, but
yes,
with all filaments, we don't use anything with a filament anymore. They're all LEDs.
Right.
And all our LEDs dimmable with electronic dimmers, and so much better.
So hopefully that helps out and explains a little bit why they have all these different bases, and maybe how you can figure out
which one you have,
and you can then pick that up and go on Amazon or wherever you get your light bulbs and pick up some new ones. So with that, I think we'll stop the share, and we'll bring it back to full screen like that and say, keep it square and level.
Till next week.
Till next time, next week.
Yeah,
next one, maybe 5 minutes. You're going to watch one in another 5 minutes. You're just going to click on the next one. So we'll see you in a couple minutes. How's that? Oh, hey, subscribe, dingle on the bell, do all that kind of fun stuff too.